But let's talk about the builders for a second. Look, we all know that inventory hit its lowest level way back in 2022. And since then, we've seen more houses on the market. Matter of fact, there's still historically pretty low inventory right now. I'm not going to make it sound like there's just this flood of inventory. But there are 863,000 existing homes on the market. There's another 490,000 new homes. Now, obviously, a lot of those are under contract, and so those get counted in that number. But this is below July estimates, and it's 4% above where we were August of 2024. So a year ago, when we had the stats for this, we are 4% above that number. So definitely inventory is growing, not shrinking. And there's some other signs of that I'm going to talk about here in a second. And although, overall supply has dropped a little bit month over month, standing completed units that are not under contract is 120,000 new homes, which historically is kind of this red flag area for home builders when we have that many built homes on the market. And this is despite the substantial incentives that builders have been giving all year, probably for the last couple of years, in order to entice borrowers to the table. And these primarily come in the form of significant reductions in the interest rate for those homes. So they do that both through forward commitments. They work directly with a lender. They prepay some points in order to buy down interest rates on a bulk of loans through that particular lender, offering significantly below market interest rates for those homes that they've done that forward commitment on, without cutting into the funds that they have available to do other, approved concessions that might cut into what the lender would allow. It'd be 3% or 6% or 9% seller concessions. The forward commitment doesn't cut into that. So they're buying down the interest rate kind of behind the scenes, if you will, to entice buyers, as well as your standard, closing costs, credits, upgrades, things of that nature. And yet we still see, some higher standing inventory for builders. So I don't know, back to the president's statement, what Fannie and Freddie could possibly do to change the current sentiment of builders. Maybe there's something that they're talking about, where Fannie and Freddie could get involved. But it's just an interesting statement. To me, it's very much like, I'm going to talk about my goals to improve housing, but it seems so disconnected from the reality of how our world actually works, because I don't see how there could be any, direct impact. The only direct impact that they could do, like I said, is take a stab at lowering rates, not by pressuring the Fed, although that's fine. If he wants to pressure the Fed, I don't have a problem with that. But they could take actual action without the approval of Congress to lower potentially the G fees or the LLPAs and have a direct impact on mortgage rates like overnight. Bill Pulte, same thing. He's introduced the Vantage score. He's made significant cuts with executives and layoffs and other things at FHFA, but none of which, directly impacts more people getting into homes. So look, I would love nothing more than for this administration, Bill Pulte or whomever has the influence to do it, to make some changes at FHFA, Fannie Freddie, whatever you can do to help first-time home buyers and existing buyers be able to afford their homes, be able to justify selling a home with a really low rate and purchase your next home. But I have not yet seen any real strategies that would accomplish what it is they're doing. They talk about it a lot, but I'm not seeing any real action there.